Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I'll be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night, we talked about the iPad and anti-gravity, and how the very first time I saw an Apple iPad, and please bear in mind that I've been an Apple Macintosh computer guy since 1985, so I know a little about the Apple and the Macintosh. The first time I saw the Apple iPad, however, I knew it was wrong. I knew that that did not belong in our time, in our history. Or rather, more specifically, it did belong, but everything else that should be here, gravity-driven cars, vacuum-based electrical generators that could fit under your bed, in your suitcase, or in the hall closet, or electro-medical devices that can cure AIDS, cancer, mend broken bones, instant communication devices that can actually allow you to speak to someone on the other side of the galaxy. Where were they? Well, the problem is, the truth is, they're here. They're here right now. They're here, they're all around us. The problem is, you and I, we don't have them. We don't have access to them. But our masters do. Our masters have all of this technology and more. Things that you and I can't even begin to imagine. You see, as technology grows, as it evolves, it changes faster and faster. And so, for example, between the time when Orville and Wilbur Wright built their first toy airplane in the early 1900s, and they proved that man could fly. 50 years later, we had aluminum-bodied high-altitude jets flying continent to continent, carrying hundreds of people. That was just in 50 years. In 50 years, we went from a toy airplane to jets. And when the jets were out, that was 60 years ago. So imagine where we should be today in technology. We should be living next door to George Jetson, using our Apple iPads, scheduling meetings and then flying to Mars for lunch, meeting with the client. On the way back, we stop at the orbiting shopping galleria that orbits the Earth every 4 hours. We stop, we go do a little shopping, have dinner, go to the movies. Then we go back to Earth. We do that in a day. That is what I first thought when I saw the first Apple iPad. The iPad is actually at the correct point in time where our technology should have evolved. It's in the right place. You and I are not. We've been robbed of our history, and now we've been robbed of our future. Our technology has been stolen from us. Where we should be, we're not. But our masters have it all. Our masters are 5,000 years ahead of us in technology. They can do things that you and I can't even begin to imagine. They left Star Trek behind a very long time ago. Then why do they hate us? They can up and leave the planet today. They could just leave. Why don't they? We still have something our masters will never have. We have a conscience. We have an awareness that all life is important. Even the cow you had for dinner last night has the right to live a good and happy and healthy life. And you and me, we have to be respectful of that cow, that chicken, that fish that we had for dinner last night, because it gave up its life so that you and I could live and have a nice steak dinner. We have the conscience, we have the awareness that all life is important. Even though you're going to eat that animal for dinner tonight, it deserves a good and proper life and a painless and unterrifying death, because it's giving up its life for you. You owe it respect. And because it has a soul, just like you and I have a soul. Our masters, they don't have souls. They don't have a spirit. They feel nothing. Well, that's not quite true. They feel nothing but hatred. And they quite literally feed on cruelty. They will never evolve. They will never grow. They will never, ever be more than what they are now. Parasites. And so, tonight I thought we would chat about hate is a group activity. Now, this is something I'm very personally aware of. I know, because I've seen it, that love, whatever it is, can exist all on its own. Love doesn't need anything else to survive. It doesn't need anything else to grow. It doesn't need to flourish by taking from others. Love exists all on its own. And it can live, and it can grow, and it can evolve. There's an old saying, I don't know if it's from a movie or from the ancients, and it goes, love is a power, and it grows when it is shared. And of course the opposite of that is hate is also a power, and it grows when it rapes. Hate is a group activity. I've again seen this with my own eyes way too many times. Hate is a group activity. Hate cannot survive on its own. It must feed. And it has to feed on the weak, the helpless, the hopeless, the defenseless. You will never see one Satan worshiper attacking one servant of God, or whatever you want to call it, somebody who doesn't want to hurt anybody. There's no religion involved with this. This is history, this is physics, this is science. You will never see one monster attack one do-gooder one-on-one, and certainly not in the light of day. Monsters like our masters and their servants, the mandarins, they work through others. And even then they work in the darkness, they work in the shadows. There'll be 20 of them and one of you. I guarantee it. I also guarantee that if you can find the strength somewhere within yourself to stand up and punch one of them in the nose, all 20 of them will wet themselves in fear and start screaming and crying in horror and running away into the night. And you know what they're going to be screaming? How dare you stand up for yourself? How dare you? We're all powerful. We're all knowing. We're power and you're nothing, but you stood up to us and you hit us in the nose? And they're wetting themselves and crying and running away in fear. Again, I've seen that with my own eyes. But if you want to see hatred in all its splendor and glory, you don't have to do much. All you got to do is turn on the TV and watch the evening news. And it doesn't matter what channel you're watching. Just for the fun of it, if you can call it fun, turn on the evening news and just flip from channel to channel from different news broadcasts through the next hour, say from 6 to 7. It's remarkable. They're all telling the same story at the same time. And it's all with hysteria and fear, and they want you to be afraid. They want you to be terrified. And 15 minutes later, it's another story where they want you to be terrified. You have to be terrified. This is our masters bragging about their own hatred of us in front of our eyes. They call it the news. You can watch CNN, you can watch Fox, in England you can watch the BBC. All of these are official mouthpieces of our masters, where they will brag and boast and hoot and holler. If you go to the zoo, you can see monkeys fighting clan against clan. And monkeys kill each other, by the way. And you can see monkeys leaping up and down, hooting and hollering, gloating over killing their victims. It's a victory dance, and our masters do it all the time. A good example of this, and I'm sure, sadly, we've all had the same experience, if you run into a psycho on the street, or God forbid, you run into a psycho in your own living room. You know that you never make eye contact with the psycho, because the moment you do, you're inviting them into your world. And you also know, like I know, that a psycho is nothing without an audience. Unless the psycho has someone to put on a show for, she doesn't exist. Again, it gets back to love doesn't need anything except itself. Hatred needs an audience. Hatred is a group activity. So without an audience, how can a psycho show you how crazy she is? Without an audience, how can a psycho show you how important to the universe she is? So you have no value in the psycho's world. You're an audience. You're there to shut up and to listen. But if you're not there to watch, to suffer, to be tormented, to have your life ripped away from you, to sacrifice everything you have and everything you are for the benefit of the psycho, then the psycho doesn't have a purpose in life. A psycho without an audience is nothing. Without us, our masters, they're nothing. Now imagine, just for the fun of it, one of our masters, or more correctly, one of our master's servants. We'll never see, you and I, will never see our masters. They're so safely hidden away we will never see them. And frankly, I got no problem with that, because I don't want to meet one of them face to face. I really don't. And I don't want to meet little gray aliens face to face. I don't. I would like to meet God face to face. First thing I would do is I would demand a hug. My second thing I would demand is I want an explanation. And forgive my language, what the fuck were you thinking? And I would demand answers. You probably don't want to be around on that day. But just for the fun of it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to make jokes on the show. It upsets people. I apologize. I'm not joking. I want answers. If I ever meet God or whoever is in charge of this, first I want a hug. Second, I want an apology now that I think about it. Then I want answers. But we'll leave that aside for another day. So let's say, for the sake of argument, one of our masters, more correctly, one of our master's servants, what I call the Mandarin class, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Clintons, the Rices, or even the slack-jawed, mouth-breathing idiot who works in the mailroom of Hate Incorporated, Barack Obama, also known as Barry Soetoro, the guy who's so stupid he can't get a job anywhere except the mailroom. Well, imagine one of these finger puppets. Imagine if one of them gave a press conference and nobody came. And we've all seen it, the president coming into the White House press room, and there's reporters stand when he comes in, and they sit very respectfully and they listen very respectfully. What would happen if Barack Obama, the finger puppet, the mouthpiece, walked into the press room to give a very important announcement, and there was nobody in the room? No reporters, no cameras, nothing. Imagine what it would be like if another psychopath, another Mandarin class psycho, Hillary Clinton, when she's not busy molesting young girls, what if she came in one of her macho screaming tirades about yet another enemy she has discovered of the American people that we must attack and we must murder today, no matter what? What if Hillary Clinton gave a press conference and no one was there to listen? No cameras, no reporters, no recorders, nothing. She's sitting in a room alone. Imagine if our masters, again through their mandarins, their servants, had major announcements to make to the world on CNN, the BBC, and Fox News, and nobody turned on the TV. Nobody watched. What is a psycho without an audience? They're nothing. Now we begin to understand the value of our masters and their servants, the Mandarin class, to us. They're psychos. And a psycho without an audience is nothing. Now, we've chatted briefly before about something called quantum entanglement. And again, this is not religion, this is physics. Now, and I'm sorry, I keep using this as an example. Western scientists And I've worked many years with Western scientists, and I feel really bad for these folks. Western scientists can only talk about the things that our masters allow them to talk about because our masters give them their paychecks very directly. So unless you do what the guy tells you to do, who's handing you your paycheck every week, you're without a job. And Western scientists know this. They can only work for the government. There's no other choice for them. So when I say that Western scientists have finally been allowed to talk about something, I'm quite literal about that. In a line of people standing in a row to get into a restaurant, they're the last in line to be able to talk about anything. The rest of us have known about this for decades. Western scientists have probably known about it, but they couldn't talk about it because the guy holding the paycheck said no. So when Western scientists begin to talk about something, finally, it's become so terribly glaringly obvious to the rest of us they have to try to catch up. So you and I chatted briefly about something called quantum entanglement and how that basically means that every atom, every cubic foot of space in our universe is linked to every other atom of every other cubic foot of space in our universe. How? Well, it's true that each of these different cubes of space are absolutely unique and special unto themselves. For example, if they had telephone numbers and you dialed up their telephone number, you would be, if you could, for example, recreate a certain area of space. Let's say it's 1 cubic foot, a cube, a box you bought. You bought a computer or something. You take the computer box and you look at it and you say, well, now that it's empty, I can use it for something. I happen to know the telephone number of a piece of space on the other side of the galaxy. I know the telephone number. My brother Bob is there, and I owe him a pizza. If I happen to know, and this is, a tremendous simplification, but if I happen to know the telephone number of a piece of space in Bob's living room on the other side of the galaxy, and I dial that telephone number, and I can make the area inside of my own box here where I just took my computer out of, I can have it have that exact same unique characteristic of that piece of space in Bob's living room on the other side of the galaxy. So instead of that unique piece of space in Bob's living room on the other side of the galaxy being only one unique space, now there are two, because I've dialed up the number. So now that piece of space in Bob's living room on the other side of the galaxy also exists in my living room inside of the box where I just took the computer out of. You know what I can now do? I can put a steaming hot piece of pizza into that box at my feet, and it instantly crosses the universe and goes to Bob's living room, so Bob can have the pizza instantly. That's basically what quantum entanglement is. Every piece of space is unique and separate. But if you can recreate the conditions of that very unique place in space, you can walk there, like stepping through a door in your house, from the bedroom to the hallway. That's what quantum entanglement means in the grossest possible sense. It also means, even though those pieces of space are unique and special unto themselves, they're still linked together, because we just sent Bob a pizza to the other side of the universe, the other side of the galaxy, other side of the planet, doesn't matter. And the other night we were talking, and I used another example, a little more personal to you and I. Let's say you are in Tampa, Florida right now, and you tickle your girlfriend, and she laughs. But at the exact same moment in time, way up north in New York City, your other girlfriend living there, she bursts out laughing at exactly the same time. Now, each of your girlfriends is unique and special and precious in her own way. They are separate, unique individuals. But they do have something in common. They're both linked to you. And since they're both linked to you, they are attached to each other. Again, this isn't religion, it's physics. You and I, based on this little conversation, quantum entanglement, you and I seem to live in what has become known as the holographic universe. Now, a hologram is just a three-dimensional picture, as far as you and I are concerned, on a piece of glass. And we've all seen them. You go down to the shopping mall, and you walk through the courtyards, and you see there's always somebody selling a holographic 3D picture of a sailboat. We've all seen them. They're all over the world. And holographic picture's cool. No matter which way you hold the picture, you can see the entire sailboat in 3 dimensions. Now, what's not as commonly known, you go home, you take your really pretty little picture of a holographic sailboat, you can see all 3 dimensions, you break the glass. Now, take a piece of that picture, of that broken glass you've just shattered and wasted, $17.95 on. Look at any piece of that broken glass, and you can still see the entire sailboat. Which means that all the information on that 3-dimensional sailboat in that picture you just broke, all that information on the sailboat exists in the smallest piece of broken glass. That means that all the information is in every single atom of that picture. So if you and I live inside of a 3-dimensional holographic universe, it means, just like the pizza in the box, it means that all the information on our universe exists at the same time in every atom in our universe. So you tickle one girlfriend in Florida and the other girlfriend in New York laughs because they're connected to you and from you to each other. Now, I went on to this long, tirade for a reason, believe it or not. This is why I've always have said, never hate anybody. Because I've had this, again, the personal experience when I was actually allowed to begin to have emotions. And my first emotion, of course, as I was waking up from being a slave, a beaten animal, a whipped dog, was hatred. How could anybody do that to me? And I remember it very, very clearly. I was working for this old Jewish couple on Ventura Boulevard at their mailbox, etc. station. And they would just abuse us endlessly because it was fun. Because they could, because they were the boss. And as all monsters do, they always throw you a bone so they can continue to abuse you. They would buy us lunch. And at one point in time, the old man sold me a car. It was nothing much. It was like $500. It was a junker. That's all I really needed. And I was in the parking structure below my apartment in Studio City. And I was sitting in my little car, my little $500 junker. And all I could think about was how much I hated this old man and the terrible things he'd done to me. And I was so angry that I turned on my car, swung the wheel all around as hard as I could, pulled out of the parking space as fast as I can, and smashed the side of my car, the front end of my car, into a concrete pillar. I actually sat there and thought about that. I realized at that point that all monsters like this old man, like our masters, like the Mandarin class, all they have to do is hurt us enough so we now hurt ourselves. They don't even have to expend any more energy. They've planted the seed of hatred in us. They're now connected to us, or more specifically, we're more connected to them. So they don't even have to bother to hurt us anymore. We're hurting ourselves on their behalf. I just junked my junk car because I hated this old man so much for the terrible way he treated me and everyone else. He hurt me without even being there. And so I applied this to the creatures that I grew up with, the CIA assets and agents, the U.S. Army Air Corps intelligence thugs, the street trash, the old women who were in charge of these clans, who were worse than the men. And I began to realize that to hate them, gave them power over me. Very nice man I knew in Hollywood. He was trying so hard to help me with my internet video broadcasting company business. He must have been in his late 60s, early 70s. He was always so very kind to me. He was trying to help me with my business. He'd, give me a couple bucks every now and again to try to do something. Very nice man. Lovely man. And he's in his 60s, 70s, and he was always telling me stories about how much he hated his father. Now, this is a man in his 60s or 70s, and he was always telling me stories about how he hated his father because of the way his father had treated his mother. And he himself was a lovely guy until he started talking about his father. So I was at his house one day, a beautiful house in Westwood, little condo. He was a very conservative gentleman. When he left the house, you would never know he was worth millions and millions of dollars. He drove a very old Honda. He dressed like a regular working guy on the streets, somebody who might work at a newsstand. He packed his own lunch, in a brown paper bag, but he was worth millions. But he was very low-key about the whole thing. I really admired him for that. A smart man. I was over at his house visiting one day, and his girlfriend was there, and her friend was there. I saw him change. He became his own father. He was abusing his girlfriend in my presence, in the presence of her friend, to a point both of us were just horrified. This very nice man, who had hated his father his whole life, had become his father. That's quantum entanglement. You become the thing that you hate. And we've all seen it. So when I say to you, never hate anyone, don't hate our masters. Don't hate the Mandarin class. Don't hate the Bushes or the Cheneys or the Clintons. Don't hate any of them. Do what's necessary. That's it. We need to remove them from our lives. We can do it peacefully. We can do it under the Constitution, because the Constitution of the United States of America gave us the right and the requirement to defend ourselves against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but hate no one. Because the moment you hate them, they own you. And so that got me to thinking about hate as a group activity. Emotions link us together. And emotion is energy. And I think that is something that our masters are counting on. Now imagine hate as a weapon. That's easy enough to do. You read a newspaper, watch CNN. It's very clear our master's hatred for us, for our world, for each other is very obvious. It's hard to miss. Now imagine hate as religion, Satan worship, Yahweh. What is the basis of Satan worship, the worship of Yahweh, of hatred? Well, there's hate, horror, fear, cruelty, rape, skinning children alive, eating their flesh while they're still alive, while they're still conscious, they're still aware of everything that's being done to them. And imagine the horror these children must feel at that point. And then they're murdered. And their blood, well, their blood is poured over ritual stones while the bodies are hacked to pieces. I'm sorry, but it's true. We need to just know that this is true and it needs to stop. But don't hate. Do what's necessary. Because what I've just said to you is enough to shut down anyone's mind. But you have to try and hear this. You have to listen and to think for yourselves, because you know this is true. You've seen it. It's happening in your neighborhood, in your country. You know it is. And for some reason, you just can't allow yourself to believe it, but you got to. Imagine religion now as a tool, a method to explain science, or more specifically, religion as a method to extract energy from living beings, in this case, you and me. Now, we all know prayer is very powerful, and you get a lot of people together. Prayer can change things. Why? It's energy. But it's not enough when you hate. Our masters have shown us it's not enough because they hate. Now imagine a religion of hatred as a tool, a method, not just to extract energy from each of us, because you and I, well, you and I create the universe around us. And the universe is nothing but a massive electrical generator. So where's all this power coming from? It's coming from you and me. It's coming from our older brothers and sisters who long ago left the earth and created homes for themselves elsewhere. It's probably also coming from the reptiles, but I have no idea. Now imagine that you exist outside of this universe, outside of this electrical generator. You live now in the nothing when you were cast out billions and billions of years ago. But you still need to survive on something. You need something. You need something to keep you alive, but there's nothing because you live in the nothing. In religion, you would call that hell. So, let's just say, for the sake of argument, you could reach back inside this soap bubble where you and I live. A universe inside of a soap bubble is where we live. Let's say you're outside in the nothing. You can reach back into this universe, inside of the soap bubble, where you were created, by the way, where you used to live, because you need to feed. And if you feed on energy, what else would a god, and this is obviously what this is, a god of some kind, what else does a god eat but energy? And the soul, in the simplest possible terms, you and I have souls. We are our souls, whatever that happens to be. It might just be a computer program. I don't know. But you and I are electrical energy generators. You and I broadcast and receive radio waves all the time. You and I are in constant communication with each other, and through each other, every other person on this planet, every living thing on this planet. We are a giant computer, basically, on this earth. We're parts of a puzzle, no matter how you look at it. And so our masters, who worship Satan, who worship Yahweh, she's tapping into her own servants to feed on them. They, the servants, the masters, the Mandarin class, they turn on us and feed on our children. Now imagine religion as a tool, as a weapon, and now as an education. Imagine religion as a way of re-educating people. The religion of hatred. It's a tool. It's not real. Now, war has the effect of changing us, how we think, how we live, how we grow. And you can do this on your own. You can read history books at a place called the library. I highly recommend libraries. Go make friends with the reference librarian and say, look, I just heard this on the internet. I've got some questions. What do you think you can find me in the library that might relate to this? Start reading about wars and the effect that wars have on human culture and how wars change human thought. But what if changing minds is not enough? What if hatred is not enough? What if just winning the war that's been fought for billions and billions of years is not enough for you? You want revenge. You want to be proven you were right. What if you just don't want to win a war, but you want to hurt the woman who hurt you? You want to hurt the woman who created you, who loved you, who treasured you above all others. And then at a certain moment in time, she changed, and you didn't. She changed and she turned her back on you. She changed and she left you behind. She left you in favor of a new life, of a new existence, and for new children. Because you used to be one of her children, used to be her lover. Now she has new children, children that you could never be, you would never want to be. Children who exist in a world totally different than what you existed in. She left you behind for her new children, her new loves, and she forgot about you. And so now you're at war with her for love. And so for you, it just doesn't matter to win the war. You want her on her knees. You want her begging for forgiveness. You want her begging you to take her back. Because finally she sees that she was wrong to leave you and you were right. How would you do this? How would you hurt your ex-lover so deeply that she'd be destroyed and she'd have to turn back to you because everything she decided she loved instead is gone? Well, you'd accomplish that by turning all of her children against her, because hate is a group activity. You would have to prove you were right and she was wrong. Now imagine religion, imagine war, imagine hate as a way of changing minds. Quantum entanglement means that you become what you hate. In this case, quantum entanglement means that you become the thing that you hate. Now imagine that through the hatred, the cruelty, you can build an army out of those people that you just hurt. Imagine that those that you have destroyed, crushed, decimated, left with nothing, crushed into the ground, trampled, beaten, broken, decimating them to the point where they hate you so much, they become you. Now you have an army. Not just an army. You have an army made up of your lover's children. And they're more powerful than the ones you have because these new soldiers have souls. So they're far more powerful than the children you have. That's sort of what you and I are in the middle of right now. A war that's billions and billions and billions of years old, and you and I are caught in the middle of it, between two girlfriends, two lovers having a spat. And we have to decide which parent to go with. And this isn't religion in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe in religion. It's a tool. But we have to use words that we both understand. This is not religion. This is history. This is science. This is physics. Quantum entanglements means that we are linked together, for better or for worse. So my question is this: who do you want to be linked to? Would you, of your own free will, give complete control of your life to someone who hates you? I've done that repeatedly, and I've been destroyed each and every time. I'm basically, I don't even know if I exist anymore. There's very little of me left. So I highly recommend you don't do that. Who would you give control of your life over to if you had free will, which, by the way, you do? Hopefully no one. Because we heard the answer, I am. I am that I am. I am myself. I am no one else. I think that is what God, whoever created us, whatever it, she, or them is, I think that's what God wanted us to be. They wanted us to know the truth about ourselves, about our world, about our universe. Faith is a joke. Faith is a lie. You don't want to have faith. You want to have knowledge. Whenever someone says to you, you have to have faith, what they're saying to you is, I want you to believe every lie I tell you because I want to hurt you. Don't have faith. Have knowledge. Don't have faith. Understand reality. You have to understand yourself first. Then, when you can think for yourself, reason for yourself, decide for yourself, who do you want to be part of yourself? Quantum entanglement. Who do you want to be part of you and you to be part of them? Hopefully someone who you love. More importantly, someone who loves you. Sharing, yes. A part of, yes. Control, not really. So, again, if I might suggest something really, really simple. Please just stop eating poison. Stop eating at McDonald's. Stop eating from the mainstream grocery store. Eat organic food. Let the poison seep out of your body enough to the point where your mind is no longer drugged, so you can see the world around you. Then you can decide what you want to do because you have free will. And the moment someone tells you you don't, they hate you. It's your decision. It always has been. May you live as long as you wish. May you love as long as you live. For the 2012fad.com, this is Charlie Bluehawk. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel finding his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race, their black magic, captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.